Do you like him?
No, not in the slightest.
Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV, and you clicked on our Christmas special. On this video, me and Andrew are going to be looking back at 4 performances from the previous week. The main chunk of this video is going to be previewing the Christmas racing, and it is absolutely ridiculous action. So good. Plenty to get stuck into. We're going to touch on every single Grade 1 as well as do our best bets at the end. But Andrew, quickly before we do, keys. They're here. We're moving in less than a couple of weeks now. You'll be over, but I'll be in next week.
Yeah, it'll be good stuff now. Hopefully we'll be bringing content to a new level in January time onwards. Like, it's just one of those things. I always feel when we're over for, say, the Cheltenham meetings together, carnage seems to ensue. And I think that could be a regular weekly basis at the moment. But good that you got the keys. A little bit disappointed there was no photo of you on Twitter with the keys and the landlord giving it that one right outside the door to the place. But the beggars can't be choosers, and I might have to recreate that in 2 weeks' time.
I'm sure you definitely will. We'll definitely do something funny with that. But no, it's good. I'm really looking forward to the content coming up. We obviously are doing the live streams early season, but we can take LTR Plus to a whole new level. Hopefully these videos go to a different level. And also, I'd say from mid-January onwards, expect potentially 2 videos a week, which could be awfully exciting leading up to the Cheltenham Festival. So if you do not want to miss that, do hit that subscribe button. Like this video if you do enjoy it. If we could smash 500 likes on this Christmas special, that would be brilliant. And get your Christmas naps down below. If some of them win, we might be giving away some bits and bobs after Christmas. Let's get stuck into things. Very quickly, we're going to touch on 4 horses. Galopin des Champs won the John Durkan. He was so relaxed. He switched off in the early part of the race. I actually thought at one point I was slightly worried that he'd switched off too much. Yeah,
it was strange. I was down there at the final fence at Punchestown watching it, and he got in tight to the first time round. And you're there going, is this horse going as well as maybe you would have thought? I suppose I had it in my head that he'd bowl along right beside Lifetime Ambition. But I think in terms of long-term goals of going up in trip and relaxing and being a Gold Cup horse, it was everything you would have wanted to have seen. And the fact that he was probably a little bit more careful and measured at his jumping would indicate that he's really maturing as a horse. And I don't buy it, people knocking it, saying, he needs to test himself at top level. Fakir Dudery's a multiple Grade 1 winner. He's beaten him 13 lengths. Lifetime Ambition was second in the Troytown off top weight. It's not bad horses he's beaten, and he's absolutely kicked them to turf.
I think my worry coming into the season was his exuberance. He was so exuberant last season. That was his downfall in the Turners. And I just thought he'd potentially use too much energy during his race, which means he wouldn't stay the 3.25 miles at Cheltenham in the Gold Cup. However, he switched off, and you'd have to be so excited by the next step looking like the Irish Gold Cup at the Dublin Racing Festival. So we'll see if he stays, and then on to the Cheltenham Gold Cup. I thought it was a very, very good performance, like many. Appreciate It made his chasing debut. I thought he looked good. He beat Top Bandit of Gordon Elliott's. What did you think of it?
Yeah, well, he's been a horse who's obviously been off the track for plenty of the last 2 years, and I suppose I'd kind of forgotten how much I loved the horse as a novice hurdler. When he made that chase debut, I must say, he quickened up pretty smartly. I think he's got a lot more pace than people give him credit for. And he was an accurate jumper. I thought he jumped really nicely the way down. I liked what he did at the last when he was horlicking down to the last, I must say, alongside Top Bandit. He saw a stride and just got in a little bit tight, but adjusted himself well. You'd think he'd go to the Irish Arkle next, I suspect, and probably see himself against the likes of a Phil Dore Hollow Games. He'd want to be beating them to go on and give John Bon a rattle, but I think he could easily do so.
Potentially. There was a lot to like. I'm convinced he's a stayer. I'm convinced he could win a national hunt chase. He'd just roll forever. He's got plenty of gears as well. Probably a national hunt chase might be a step too far, but I'd love to see him over 2.5 miles. I've said this for a long time. I've said maybe even 3 miles. It looks like they're going to go down the 2 mile route. It'd be interesting to see what they do and how they split him and El Fabiolo, who also made his chasing debut. Jumping probably needs to improve.
Yeah, he's a horse of a lot of ability, big engine and all that. I must say I wasn't overly taken by it, and he's a horse I like a lot, but he kicked 2 or 3. He gave them a fair thump, and he is going to have to improve markedly on that. especially when you know how good a jumper John Bon is. That's his main asset. You're going to have to be on your game and stuff like that. And the fact that he was out in front getting a bit of a freebie, a bit of an after you, Claude from the jockeys in behind, and yet he still didn't jump well, would be a bit of a concern.
Empire Pass looked a particularly exciting new recruit for Willie Mullins and Simon Munir and Isaac Swade. He made his hurling debut in this country over 2.5 miles this week. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, he looked super. And Nace was tricky on Tuesday, I must confess. There was an enormous headwind into those horses turning into the straight, and dolled off hurdles means you're a bit out on your own. And I think you saw that within the pocket earlier in the car that nearly tied up when hitting the front. The fact that this horse really quickened up, I think, would be a sign that he's a very smart horse. I think Willie Mullins was hinting at the fact that he might go for the Moscow Flyer next. So, you're in a situation between a rock and a hard place, whether this is going to be a 2 or 2.5 miler. I suspect he's got the speed for 2 miles. I suspect he's got the stamina for 2.5.
It's not a bad combination. I'd be slightly cooler on his spring chances. I'm not sure he's up to Facile Vega's level. And if you're looking at form lines, the third Artist Donnay for the Crawfords finished 25 lengths behind Absolute Notions. He finished 27 lengths behind King of Kingsfield and 23 lengths behind Empire Pass the other day. But let's move on then to the Christmas preview. And we've got so much great action to preview. You've got Limerick, you've got Kempton, you've got Leopardstown. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Cannot wait to get stuck into it. We're also going to preview the Welsh National. But first, let's get stuck into Kempton on Boxing Day. Long Walk Hurdle has been moved to here. So we've got Champ going up against Paisley Park. Others in there, Miranda stepping up into Grade 1 company. It looks a tough task for her.
Yeah, hard one to get a handle on, really. Wouldn't be a race I'd probably have a bet on in the end. If you swung me against a wall, I'd probably go with Champ. I think he's the best horse in the race. Paisley Park, I just can't see him being suited by Kempton. He's ran a few times around Punchestown at the back end of seasons and has been dreadfully outpaced. And they're not dissimilar tracks, I suppose. They're flatter right-handed tracks, and I think he wants a bit of more of a galloping test. Miranda, I suppose, in theory, if she keeps on improving, would have a small squeak, but I just don't see it. She's coming up from Mares Only company, and relatively average Mares Only company at that. And Goshen, you actually wouldn't be surprised if he ran a big race in this, but, you can't throw him as much as you trust him. So therefore, I would probably be with Champ, but it wouldn't be a betting race.
I quite like Goshen. I really do. I really quite like Goshen. And I don't think I've ever said that. I've never warmed to Goshen, even in his juvenile days. I just look at it and I couldn't have Paisley Park at all. I think Kempton is just the absolute opposite of what he wants. He wants a big galloping track. Kempton's right-handed sharp. And Champ, as much as I think that this test will actually suit Champ, I think 3 miles around Kempton would be perfect for him almost. I just don't think he's ever as good on a second start. And this comes pretty soon after the long distance hurdle. There isn't a massive gap at all. And I just think Goshen right-handed, Kempton's an easy 3 miles, so he's got more chance of staying. I think he will stay 3 miles. 9-2, I quite like Goshen. I never thought I'd say that. But the Kauto Star then is the next Grade 1 on the day. And we see Time Hill coming up against McFabulous again. We've got Giulino Bello in there. Bryony Frost takes the ride. A couple of others. Where do you see this going to?
Yeah, I think I'd be boring enough probably and end up with McFabulous myself. I just haven't been overly convinced by Giulino Bello's jumping. I think he could easily be the best chaser in this lineup, to be honest, long term. McFabulous is a horse I don't really like particularly. He was good at Newbury the last day, couldn't have time hitting a fit. I don't think he wants to jump these fences. He should be in the long walk around an hour before, to be honest. I've been beating that drum for a while. He'd have a great chance in it as well if he was running. So it's just one of those things. I just can't get my head around it, I must confess. But I'd probably be with McFabulous, but again, it's another one that I wouldn't have a major say because I'm not massively keen almost on any of them.
I think Giulino Bello, Kempton 3 miles... It'd have to come up soft to give him a squeak. I think he's a thorough stayer and would want a big galloping track. McFabulous, I think, might just suit him. I think what he's shown so far, he's better clearly over fences. King George time then. And this race a month ago looked dreadful when Allaho came out. It looked absolutely dreadful. Now suddenly we've got Ahoy Signor in there, Hitman, Envoy Alain, La Homme Presse, Brave Man's Game, who we knew would come to this race. This is an absolute minefield. Andrew, please say What I want to hear. Please tell me Braveman's Game's going to win this.
Yeah, well, it's been a funny race, and obviously plenty of people have had their say over the last week or two. But I must say, I'd be doubling down on Braveman's Game in this race. I'd actually make him one of the better bets around Christmas time. I think the fact that Lahan Presse in the race means he's not going off odds on. I can't see it suiting Lahan Presse, to be honest. And I just feel they're going to get all in a big old skirmish up top again, just like last year. Ahoy Senor's going to be in there, butting fences, getting in the way of everybody. Frodon's going to be up there. Lahan Presse wants to be up there. So a lot of pace there. And is Braveman's Game not just going to sit off them? Harry Cobden on the inside, just behind Frodon maybe, getting a lovely trail into the race. And I would like to hope, what I have in my head is Clan des Oboes' first King George, where Thistlecrack was kind of brought him all the way into the race. And we got down to the last, and Harry Cobden went 1-2, let's go, win our race. And he's spending the last 100 yards waving at the fans, waving at everybody, all of this. And I'm hoping that's the case. I'm going to be very unpopular for saying this. I could easily be wrong as well. I'll hold my hands up to it. I'm not a massive fan of Lahan Presse, I must say. I'm not as big a fan as a lot of people seem to be. I don't know. It just wouldn't be for me, really, the Ahoy Senor form from last year. In the RSA, it was a mucky race. Farouk Dalen would have had a great chance if he didn't come down at 2 out. So, I don't know. It just wouldn't be for me, and he should have been beating into Overdrive in a rehearsal chase. Everyone's telling you it was the best weight-carrying performance we've ever seen. Like, Into Overdrive is a horse that even some of Paul's could beat. So, I just think Braveman's Game. This is his race. This is what we've said for years. And fingers crossed he gets the job done.
I'm over the moon you said that, I must admit. But with Braveman's Game and Lahan Presse, I've never once said that I think Braveman's Game's a better horse than Lahan Presse. I do rate Lahan Presse. And I think almost over any other track, if it was Cheltenham, I'd be backing him. But Kempton right-handed, what he did in the Kauto Star last year, he's going to love it. He's been trained for one day for the last year. This has been the target, and I'm in love with him. He's my favourite horse in training. I would absolutely love it if Braveman's Game goes and wins. It'll be interesting because it looks like there's going to be plenty of pace in the race. Will that set it up for a Hitman or a Braveman's Game coming late? How much pressure does Charlie Deutsch put on Frodon and Ahoy Senor at the front? Does he take it up early doors like he did in the RSA if Ahoy Senor's not jumping particularly well? It'd be fascinating tactically, and it genuinely looks one of the races of the Christmas period. It's very exciting. I just hope Braveman's Game crosses the line in front. And he's second favourite now, 9-4. Come on, please. Please, the racing gods, Braveman's Game. The Faugheen Novices Chase is the feature at Limerick on the day, and we see Jerry Colombe in there for Gordon Elliott, Kilcrut for Willie Mullins. Looks competitive enough, but this test, especially with the rain getting into the ground, is it not just playing right into Jerry Colombe's strengths?
Yeah, I'd have thought so, really. He's a short price, wouldn't be backing him at those prices in a novice chase, obviously, but Limerick is always soft, whether it's advertised or not, and there's been a lot of rain over the last 24 hours even throughout the entirety of Ireland, and I think that's going to be absolute, right up Jerry Colombe Street. And I just don't think it's going to be up Kilcrut Street either. He's always kind of looked to me like a slightly better ground horse as well. I was more impressed than some were of his chasing debut, and I think he's a very worthy opposition to Jerry Colombe, but you can't look past the favourite here.
The first race that we're going to preview at Leopardstown over their 4-day meeting is the Racing Post Chase, the Grade 1 2 mile and a furlong Novices Chase. Small field here. We've got Phil Dore, Hollow Games. Saint-Reward reopposes Phil Dore. Which one do you like in here? Do you think Phil Dore is quick enough to compete against these really good? Well, are they very good?
Yeah, I think he is, to be honest. I think he's got everything in his favour. He likes Leopardstown. He's ground versatile. 2 mile 1 around Leopardstown isn't as tight as people give it credit for. There's a climb down over the last and to the line. And I don't know, Hollow Games is an interesting horse. We'll know so much more about him after this run. I'm still very much the jury out on him, really. But he could be up to winning this, and we could have all been wrong about him and the trip that he was running over last year. But he's got to prove it at Grade 1 level for me. And to be honest, Saint-Reward, I've burnt my fingers too many times backing him over the years, Josh. I can't bring myself to do it anymore.
I think this race is dreadful. I really don't think it's good at all. 5 runners, Phil Dore being favourite for a 2 mile Grade 1 Novice Chase. I wouldn't have expected that at the start of the season. I thought it would have been up in trip, and I still think he has time to do that. I'd take a wild swipe with Joseph O'Brien's Midnight Run, who I thought was impressive the last day. Probably go off the front, maybe. Hollow Games probably up there as well. I just wouldn't rule him out at 20s, but it's a dire race. Moving on then to to the 27th, and we've got 3 races to preview. We'll start with Facile Vega in the Grade 1 2-mile novice hurdle at Leopardstown. Probably not a race we need to touch too much on, as he's probably just going to go and win.
Yeah, you'd think so, and I'd say Willie will have the second and third as well. I'd maybe back Intranet to come second ahead of LFA Tomp. I probably want to take her on in graded contests this year, but look, I think they're all going to be playing for place money behind Facile Vega. If everything goes to plan, he looks far and away the best going around at the moment.
An intriguing race at Leopardstown is the Paddy Rewards Club Chase. You've got Chac and Poursoir in there, you've got Blue Lord. Which one do you like in here? Because Chac and Poursoir, 4 out of 5 at Leopardstown. This is a home match, but he is turning 11 soon. He
is, and I suppose you're backing on trust that he still has the same ability, but based off his run at Punchestown behind an Ergamine, he still does. And, you know, I'd pose the question to you, are you going to take on Brave Man's Game around Kempton? I'm certainly not going to take on Chac and Poursoir around Leopardstown. It's more than a home game. It might be as well be on his sofa, to be honest. It's so much of up his own street. He loves the fences down the back, and I think he'll get Blue Lord under pressure from a jumping perspective. That'll be my main way into the race. Captain Guinness has never quite done it at this level, so I think it's the Chac's race to win, and fingers crossed he does, because he does deserve it.
Yeah, I see it. He's failed to win in quite a while, and that would put me off a little bit. I would side with Blue Lord. I think he's improving. He's the younger horse. I would doubt that he'd have the speed to beat Chac and Poursoir over 2 miles, but I'd be willing to take the risk. I'm not sure Chac and Poursoir is the horse of old, and you may have seen a lot more positives in that run behind Energamine than I did. And I just think Blue Lord potentially is on the up, and we've not seen the best of him. I was surprised. I thought he'd be a 2.5 miler this season. He obviously started in the Clonmel Chase, winning that just over 2 miles and 3 furlongs. So I was slightly surprised that they set him down in trip, but I'm not sure. I'd maybe just about go Blue Lord at 3-1. Let's then move over to Chepstow, and their big race is obviously the Welsh National. Very competitive, very difficult to pick the winner, as it is every single year, other than last year with Secret Reprieve, the favourite, going and winning. Which one do you like here? Yeah,
I really like one in this, Josh. Actually, Pat's Fancy for Rebecca Curtis. Make it a pretty strong bet, to be honest. I like horses. I think you look at this Welsh National, you need horses that act around Chepstow. Won twice last year as a novice. The Welsh trainers, they'll do absolutely anything to go and win this race. We've only seen that with the likes of Evan Williams, Kristen Williams over the last few years. Pat's Fancy was a good novice last year. Would have needed his reappearance run where he was pretty listless over hurdles. He comes here over 142, soft ground up his street, stays forever. I think there's an awful lot to like.
I really like Pat's Fancy too. He was top of my list at 10-1 each way. I would give a mention to the 2 Amigos who finished second in this race, two Secret Reprieve last year. That was off 142. Now he's running off 127. If he gets in, I think that he definitely has a squeak. He's 33-1. I'll be backing him each way. Let's then move over to Leopardstown on the 28th, and we've got the Jack de Bromhead Stayers Hurdle. And it looks a fascinating renewal. I actually think that this is probably the most informative race from a Cheltenham Festival anti-post point of view, because we've got Bob Ollinger stepping up potentially to 3 miles for the first time over hurdles anyway, and we've got Florian Porter in there, Classical Dream, who won the race last year. Did he get a freebie on the front end? Did Florian Porter scupper his chances jumping off? It's fascinating. Do you expect a much better performance from Florian Porter here?
Yeah, I think you'd have to. It's a hard race to get an angle on, and I suppose there's... I'd be lying to say there's a greedy part of me that wants Florian Porter turned over here. Just from the basis that I think then, especially if Bob Ollinger was to beat him, because I would fancy the form to be flipped again at Cheltenham, and suddenly you'd get somebody like Bob Ollinger be favourite for the Stayers Hurdle. And I can tell everyone now Florian Porter would be my selection for the Anti-Post series the first week of January if he's drifted out to a nice little price like he was last year. It's a hard one to know. I really think it's a race to probably sit back. I've had a few quid on, I must confess, on meet and greet at an enormous price. Backed him at 100-1. I think he's still 66-1 out there. He's been to Leopardstown once before in his career. Won a bumper beating Top Bandit. Was third behind the nice guy Manila Cocooner in a Grade 1 3-mile novice hurdle at Punchestown. That was the only time he's run over 3 miles. Always comes on greatly for his seasonal reappearance. I just thought if certainly one or two of the top guns slightly fluff their lines, I suppose, he's the type of horse that could easily run on into place money.
And we go a massive price. Oliver McKiernan.
Oh, of course, yeah. But at the same stage, I feel no regrets. You've put up Gosh and Midnight Run and Blue Lord, so I've got to throw a few wild ones in.
And I do think that this Christmas meeting is slightly different to the others because some of these horses are having their first run of the season. Some of them are having their second and they were maybe slightly disappointing first time out, or you've got slightly weaker form. This season is all over the shop. We could see some shock winners over this Christmas period. Let's move on to the Savills Chase, and at the moment we've got a Plutard heading the market at 6-4, but there's rumours that he may not run. I don't think Henry de Bromhead is any rush with him running. Obviously he was disappointing in the Betfair Chase at Haydock a couple of months ago. Has he recovered from that yet? They found something which is a positive. It means they can try and rectify it and sort it out. But 6-4 is skinny enough from what we saw at Haydock. Do you think he will run?
The more and more you hear, the more and more you'd be suggesting he won't run, which is a shame. He would have added an awful lot to the race because otherwise it's a pretty dross race for my money anyway. It's a race, though, even if he did run, would you be backing him at a prohibitive price? Probably not. I think there's every chance, I'd say 99% chance that Jack Kennedy would ride Conflated out of the Gordon Elliott lot, and based off his Irish Gold Cup run, you'd have to give him a great chance. I don't think Statler is going to run, so it's not a great race, to be honest. If you take out that Plutard, it's not a vintage 3 mile grade one.
I'd say Statler will go and follow the Alboom photo path. He'll probably go to Tremor on New Year's Day. I like Fury Road from Gordon Elliott's lot, 16-1 each way. He won the 3 mile grade one Novice last year, albeit beating Run Wild Fred. He can be a monkey. He just beat Dalvino the last day at Down Royal. I think he'll come on for that. I think he'll appreciate the Stepperman trip. And I think Fury Road, in my opinion, could take a good bit of beating here. I'd actually have him as number 1 out of Gordon Elliott's lot personally.
The only thing I'm struggling to comprehend at the moment with Gordon's lot is Jack Kennedy clearly is going to have first pick, but I'd personally have Jordan Gainford in at number 2 and Sam Ewing maybe in at number 3, something like that. 2 young lads who are super riders. But I see from the 26th race with Hollow Games, Dennis O'Regan being on him. Dennis O'Regan's a very good rider, but it's just, I suppose you'd have had a little bit more confidence in Fury Road, or a bit more belief if you knew maybe GN Russell was on.
If you look at the 26th, if you were Jordan Gainford, would you want Hollow Games ride at Leopardstown, or would you want to go and ride Jerry Colomb at Limerick in the Grade 1 Faugheen Novices Chase? I think, personally, I'd say I'd want to do that. It wouldn't surprise me if Gainford's on Fury Road. Jack Kennedy, don't rule it out. He absolutely loves Fury Road. Let's then move on to the 3 mile Grade 1 Novices Chase on the 29th. And at the moment, we've got Gellard de Menil, who heads the market at 6-4. Do you like him?
No, not in the slightest. I'd be all in on 3 Stripe Life if he runs here. Not sure whether he will or not. It'd be probably a point to him running in the 3 mile at Cheltenham if he did. I just think Gellard de Menil is awfully skimpy for a horse that keeps running well, but really shows no signs of wanting to win these Grade 1 races. And you can make up a case that maybe he'll just have the class to win a National Hunt Chase because he'll be able to win it on the bridle. But I don't think this horse really wants to get into a battle and beat a horse. Really, when it comes down to it. You saw it in the Drimmore. He was tanking coming down to the last. Didn't want to know behind Mighty Potter. People put it down, he's just a thorough stayer. And maybe that's the case to a certain extent, but there's also a case of, he kind of puts his head in the air and doesn't really want to do it. So I just think he's not going to be able to win a Grade 1 race against 3 Stripe Life on the bridle. So I'd want to take him on, and I think at the prices 11-4, 3-1, 3 Stripe Life's a cracking bet.
Would you be worried at all with what 3 Stripe Life did the last day?
No, because it wasn't like his jumping was bad. Like, he made one very bad mistake, which is obviously disappointing, and Davey lost his irons, the whole thing was over. But he jumped quite nicely up until that point, so I don't see that really being a main issue, to be honest. And I think if he runs here, if he's declared to run here, he'll take an awful lot of beating.
The final race we'll preview before our best bets is the Matheson Hurdle, and we've got the Young Pretender from the William Mullins Yard in State Man heading the market. But Shah just won the last 4 renewals of this race. Can he make it 5?
Yeah, hard to know. I took him on 3 times of those 4. I finally came to my senses last season when I finally backed the horse. Yeah, of course, it's his home turf. It's a bit like Chacun Poursois earlier in the week. That being said, I just would love, and I think racing could do with State Man putting in a big effort here, putting in a statement effort. And I would like to hope he'll do that. He's obviously 2-5. I'm not going to be backing him, but I'd love him to win and win very well.
Let's then move on to our best bets of the Christmas period. I've got 6. We've got 4 on Boxing Day and I've got 2 on the 27th. I'll quickly run through mine. I think Solo is going to take an awful lot of beating at Kempton in the 305. He's 6-1. I also then like Brentford Hope at 3-1 in the 320 at Wetherby. Smart flat horse. He's rated, I think, 113 over hurdles and 104 on the flat, or something similar to that. My nap of the Christmas period is Barbados Bucks at 8-1 in the 313 at Wincanton, the Pertemps qualifier. I don't think he's the type of horse that's going to go and win at Cheltenham in March, but I do think he could win at Wincanton, the Pertemps qualifier. He's had the run, he'll come on for it, he ran well. I think he could take a good bit of beating, 8-1 each way. He's my nap of the Christmas period. Hopefully Christmas money comes with him. The last one on Boxing Day is Range at 2-1 at Huntington in the 332. It's the bumper. He finished second to Isaac Desobo at Chepstow. I think the world of that horse. Paul Nicholls thinks the world of that horse. And there was lots of talk from Sam Thomas about Range before that, and the fact that he was beaten was probably a little bit disappointed, but they pulled so far clear of the 3rd and 4th that I think those 2 smashing horses, and Range at 2-1 is a gift from the racing gods. Moving on then to the 27th, and 2 I like. They're both pretty short. They're both trained by the Skeltons. Lac de Constance, I think, will beat Boot Hill in the Wayward Lad at 7-4. I think it's going to be a 3-4 runner race. It doesn't look like there's going to be particularly many in there. I think he's better than Boot Hill. I comfortably think he's better than Boot Hill. And then the other one is Get a Tonic at 6-4. Up against Sabrina. I feel like I'm cheating on her. I must admit, I do feel like I'm cheating on her. But I think Get a Tonic is better than her mark. She's 6-4. The Skeltons have sent many good ones to this race in the past. I just think she'll go and win.
Well, I've got 6 best bets as well, and I've reverted to type as well. Josh has got a few Skelton horses in there. People will know where my best bets are coming from. Starting on Stephen's Day, 145 at Leopardstown. Put it up on Twitter around an hour or two ago. Absolute sharks around. Because there's this horse called Brookie that opened up at 15-2, and he's already into 11-2. I think he's an absolute rick. Tony Martin has a fantastic record in this race. He won at Limerick the last day by the snuggest of margins. You know, one of those where a man wants to win, but really, like Tony Martin has put a bullet to Liam McKenna's head. Do not win by far. And he's won by like a neck. Like, it was a thing of absolute poetry from Liam McKenna. The 255, the 2 mile handicap chase, backed Grange Walk in the race last year. I'm going to back him again in this race this year. He's 10-1. I think that's too big a price. Moving on to the second day's racing, the 27th. The Paddy Power are going to throw 2 horses in there. Donkey Years at 10-1 for Eric McNamara and Mark Walsh. I think he's got a great chance. The day has finally come, Josh. We finally got, after the Dublin Racing Festival, I've been campaigning for 10 months to get Gallant John Joe back in a handicap. 2 runs over 2 miles this year. Dropped £4 by the assessor. Richie Condon takes £5 off. I don't know what people want. He's 20-1. Surely that's just an absolute gift. 6 places each way. I think he's got a cracking chance. On to the 28th, the second race, the 12:35. Lizer for Barry Connell. Barry Connell's only going to run 2 or 3 over Christmas at Leopardstown. They'll all go very close. Slow Style will give Brookie a bit of a run on Stephen's Day as well. And the nap comes at Limerick, back on the 27th. The 2 mile 7, Grade 2 novice hurdle, won by plenty of good horses in the past. And you'll know exactly who I'm going for. The new Gallant John Joe, even better for Owen McKiernan. The best horse he's got, Calanisi Star. He's won a bumper by 15 lengths, beating Monbeg Park. Wins on hurdle debut, goes up to 2 mile 7. He's going to be second or third favourite because people will be there. Oliver McKiernan can't train a barge pole. It's just not correct. He's been banging in winners, and Calanisi Star is going to bang another one in this Christmas.
Andrew's nap, Calanisi Star, and my nap, Barbados Bucks. We do hope you all enjoy your Christmas, and do like this video if you did enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and a very Merry Christmas from us at Let's Talk Racing.